Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is part 6 of my Diablo style tutorial series. In the last part we were creating the level up system, but we had a flaw. And the flaw was that the system itself is starting at level 0 but not at level 1. And in this part we're gonna go over and change that according to that we are able to start at level 1. So the current level at the very beginning is starting at level 1. Which needs us to change something or some values inside the level up system itself. And after this one we go into inputs. So we're gonna do something about if the player has been clicked on here or double clicking there and so on and so forth. So everything about the mouse input I believe we will go over and change it, of course, according to the Patreon who is currently supporting this tutorial series. So if you have any questions about that, of course, feel free to ask later on. Okay, so let's start with the level up system pretty quick, and let's open this one up in Mono Develop. And what you can see is our current or our temporary level is going to get the square root depending on the current EXP and the base EXP, which we are setting to whatever we like and please. So, but since we want to have a temporary current level increased by 1, we're gonna go at the very end of the line and say +1. So what we do is we're gonna do all the calculation and increase it by 1, whatever it's currently at. So, but this is not enough, since I can show you this one pretty quick. When we are starting now, our current level is going to be, or should start at 1. But the downside is our stat points, skill points, and all the other points are not correctly calculated. As you can see, currently we're gonna start at 1, but what you can see, we already get 5 and 15 in the stat and the skill points, and also the EXP for the next level and the difference to the next level, and of course the total EXP difference is completely wrong. Since we have that number increased by 1. So what we need to do is we need to change some of the calculations inside of that until we go and get the complete correct data while we are going through. Also, you have seen the current EXP have been calculated wrongly as well. So what we're gonna do is at first we go into the line of EXP for the next level. As you can see, currently we're gonna add +1, but since we are already increasing this one, and here we need just to go and get rid of those. So we're gonna delete the numbers 1 and +1 over here in the brackets, so we can actually get rid of it, and we can just go in and calculate all of that together. So the current level times the current level is going to be whatever the next level is times the base EXP. Okay. So in the next line everything is okay and we'll stay at that, but in the total EXP difference we need to go and recalculate the current level as well. So what we do is we're gonna set the current level in here into brackets and we say -1. And the same for the second value is going to be the same, -1, and make sure you clamp that inside the brackets. So the EXP difference to the next level is going to be recalculated according to what we're gonna add in here is what we need to get rid of in here. Okay, so let's save that and see how our level up system now is going to be calculated and see if it's working completely correct. Also about the stat points, when we are at level 1 we don't want to have stat points already. So let me just load it. Oh, and I can see there are still or already stat points in here. So we need to take care of this one as well. So what we do is we're gonna take the current level in here as well and decrement it by 1. Once again, so we say this one in the open close parentheses, we say current level -1. So at level 1 we don't get any skill points and any stat points. When we are starting the game, actually we don't have anything. Well, we are just at 0 EXP, which are calculated once again in here. and of course in there, and we're gonna add the EXP amount by that as we do the whole time. Don't forget to save, and let's see how it's looking right now. So starting the game, you can see now the total EXP difference now is not 3000 but 1000, which is currently the EXP we're gonna need for the first level. Then currently we have 5. The EXP for the next level in this case once again is 1000 because it's depending on the base EXP, and the fill amount and the reverse fill amount is going to be calculated correctly as well. And same for the stat and skill points, they will only increase when we are at least level 2. So in this case we can also go and take the base EXP down to 50, and when we're pressing play, the next EXP, once it's going to be calculated, you can see the EXP for the next level is going to be 50. The current difference to the next level, because we already got 10 EXP, is going to be 40, and the total EXP difference again is 50. So, and this is how we can actually go in and calculate everything correctly. And once we hit the 50 base EXP we just set, we're gonna get the stat points of 15 and the skill point, the stat points of 5 and the skill points of 15, and of course the next EXP needs 200 points and in total, because of the calculation we did earlier, and the total EXP difference to that for now is from that base of 50 is 150. So now you can see the complete calculation is going to be correct, because we just changed some values in here and in there to make the whole system a very solid one at the moment. So let's update some inputs right now. The Patreon requested that when we are pressing on an enemy with the left mouse button, that we are only selecting this guy instead of just going to him or to the enemy and attack it. And also he wants some interactions with signpost and even the chests. Currently we just change our mouse according to what we are after or over, but what we also want to make sure is that we can interact with the objects like the signpost in here or my chest. I already created a little animation for this one. We're gonna go in further later on. Also, maybe if the time is doing so, I want to implement some running while we are holding down Shift, for example, or any other key you like and prefer. So you can actually also hold this one down and run around the scene instead of just walking that slowly in here. And we go into the animator stuff as well at the point we're going. So but beforehand we go over and do all that input stuff, or actually update our current inputs. Also, the Patreon is requesting a right click and a double click, depending on what's going to happen actually. So for example, if we're right clicking on the enemy, it should show a name or something. We're gonna go into that a bit later on. And same for double clicking on that enemy would attack it, and same for double clicking maybe on terrain or anywhere else where nothing is actually under the mouse. Would deselect the enemy. So at first we need to create a double click function for this one as well. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I just have commented some stuff out here and there, so it's a bit more organized. You might want to do that as well. But what we need to do is, for our double click function, actually are 4 variables we're gonna need for this. So I'm gonna comment this one out as well. Double click. So everything in here will become available for our double click, or actually needed for our double click. Actually, we don't need public ones. We can go and use them public so we can read the data, but I believe we don't need to. So we want to have one bool which is called just one click. So when I click somewhere, I want to get the system notified, okay, there was a click. Also, I want to use another bool later on for, let's say easing stuff up, and I call this one just double click. So this will notify when we have done a double click, and we'll just set this one to true or false depending on how a timer has been updated actually. And that's what we need that particular float for. Again, we can set this one to private even if we don't need to. Just without the keyword private, it would be still private. So actually in C# or here, it doesn't really matter. So what we need is a timer for our double click, which is catching the time which has been run or which will run while the game is running. Actually, we don't need to set this one to anything as well. And we're gonna need another private one. You can even go and do this one public as well, but I recommend not to do so. And it's going to be the delay, and we're gonna set this one to 0.25. That means the delay in between the first click and the second click does not have to be, or shouldn't be higher than this one. You maybe want to play around with that. Maybe the delay for you is only 0.2, which will be 200 milliseconds, or you're gonna use 250 milliseconds. It's up to you what you want to do, what to use, but make sure it's not higher than 0.3 in this case. Otherwise the double click would be a rather big one. Okay, so this is everything we're gonna need for the double click function. So to go straight into that, we create a little helper function for our double click, which is actually nothing else than going through and check whenever we want it, of course, to check. And in this case, it's going to run an update the whole time and check if a particular button has been pressed and how often, basically. So what we're gonna do is we call this, it's of type void, of course, check double click. We can make use of all the bools at any time, but the most important one is that we are able to test if there's a double click happening. Okay, so we're gonna take the first, or the input we're gonna use for the left mouse button, or in this case I was choosing the fire 1 key in here. So if the fire 1 key is going to be pressed, so whoops, I just copied that over. So if the fire 1 has been pressed in here, we want to see what's currently happening. So the first one is we want to see if one click already has been done. So if not, with an exclamation mark in front, if not one click, then we want to see, okay, there hasn't been any click at that point. We want to make sure that we got one click, and that means we're gonna set this one to true. So we know now know, okay, there has been one click at that point. What we also want to do is our timer for double click. We want to make sure that we set this one to time, which is a gaming time, the current game time. So when you're playing about 10 minutes, then it will be 10 minutes. And what we want to do is we want to check against that timer for double click for the current runtime. And that's what we're going to do in the next step. So everything in here, in that particular part, can be used by something when we have done one click. So if you need to have something specific, or once again doing inside the one click function, you can do, but you don't need to. So we're gonna leave this one alone as it is. What we create is an else statement after this one. And in that else statement, we're gonna set the one click to be false, and of course we're gonna set the double click to be true, and I'm gonna explain in a moment why. What we also want to do in here, we could actually print a message or something, so we notice, okay, there has been a double click in that case. So what does it mean? We're gonna need another helper if statement for this one to actually have all of that correctly set it up. And we're gonna do that after the complete if statement input. What we want to do is we want to say if there has been one click, so if one click is true in this case, we want to see how much the time, the current time, divided, or no, minus the double click time we just stored in here, how big this one is, and if it is bigger or smaller than delay, the delay of 0.25 we were setting in the beginning. So what we say is, if we're gonna open close parentheses inside once again, so if time.time minus timer for double click, and after the first parentheses we're gonna make a bigger sign. If this is bigger than delay, we're gonna open close curly braces or brackets. We're gonna set the one click is going to be false and double click is going to be false. Okay, so what does all of that stuff now do? Let's assume we're gonna press a button. This is running an update, so it's looping the whole time and see if there is any button pressed. Also, it's seeing if one click has been true in this update frame actually. When one click is true, of course we have clicked already, so we're gonna go into the else statement while we are clicking the second time in this case. And double click is actually going to be set to true. And while we are requesting double click, or in this case it's true, it's also running the same time if there is one click already happened. So while we are in that else statement, we can set and test for the time minus the double click time, and we see if that's bigger than delay. So if it's smaller than delay, double click would be automatically true. Otherwise, it would be set to be false. Okay, and that's what we're gonna check with that little helper function. I'm hoping that's not too confusing. Make sure that the second if statement is not inside the first statement. Otherwise, it will be called only when we are clicking the fire one button, which we don't want to. Okay, don't forget to save the script. And that's everything we need for double click. So what we can do now is we can update all the inputs depending on what we are clicking on. Also, we can, after in the update function, after we created our array cast hit, we can actually check for double click the whole time, but make sure that you do that before you actually go into the first input in here. Okay, so currently we're just checking if we are hitting a tag collider with the tag enemy and do or say that we are actually clicking on that we have clicked on an enemy. What we also want to do is we want to make sure that we are able to click on chests. We are able to click on the signpost I just showed you before, and we're gonna get all the infos from that as well, and same maybe for the ground, and maybe same for anything else, I don't know. So what we can do is we can just say an else if statement in here. So else if, so no matter what is happening otherwise than just hitting an enemy with that particular tag, we can also check for the tag chest or loot or whatever. So instead of the enemy, we're gonna use chest. In the last part, I believe we were creating chest stuff while we have been in the mouse update stuff, where we were creating all the mouse inputs, or actually the mouse hover over thingies with the icons. That's where we created the chest as well. And if you have any more of those particular ones you want to interact with, like doors or stones, whatever, make sure you input those in here as well. I'm gonna put an info tag in here as well, which I will use for the signpost, so we can actually see what we have clicked in this case as well. So what we also want to have is we want to interact with those, and we need to store the object, or actually the transform of the clicked object. So what we create is maybe another part in here for objects or interactables. You can rename, or you can comment this out however you like. So in this case it's going to be a private one, and we're gonna create a transform with a big T in the beginning, and it's going to be our clicked object. So the clicked object, we just have our mouse over, and when we are clicking on that, and it is not of type enemy in this case, but of chest or info in this case, it's going to be an interactable object. We're gonna use and check against. So what we also want to have is maybe a little private bool that we know, okay, we have clicked on a specific object. So we get this one true or false later on as well. So object clicked. If that's too confusing for you, like clicked object and object clicked, you can rename all that variables to your needs, of course, to not confuse yourself in this particular case. Okay. So what we want to do is, when we have, actually let's assume we're gonna have clicked on the info sign in this case. What we want to do is we want to set, we have clicked on an object, so object clicked is going to be true. And our clicked object, so the one we just hit is going to be equal to hit to transform, since it's of type transform as well. So now we have stored the clicked object's transform, so we know where it is, and we know that we have clicked an object. So what we do is we create a little new function in this case. So maybe you want to have double click, I don't know, somewhere in the bottom or wherever you like, and we're gonna create a new one. Okay, so let's do the info stuff first. So what we want to do is we want to create again the little helper function. I named this one just read infos. So and what we're gonna need is the transform target. So the targeted object we just clicked in this case. We pass this one later on over depending on what the input has been. So what we actually do is the same as we have done in the move and attack functionality. At first we're gonna set the target, so we want to, oops, I'm gonna comment this pretty quick out, set target. So at first we want to go closer to it, otherwise we are not able to read it. We can actually choose any distance once again. I will use just the attack distance we have been created earlier as well. So once we have set the target, we want to go close to the target, and after that we want to make sure that we read it, so we read at that point. So again, how to set the target is we're gonna set the navmesh agent dot destination, as you already know from the other ones, and it's going to be the target dot position in this case, since it's returning a vector 3 and target is of type transform. Okay, so now we're gonna need to go close to it, and what we need is actually we need to check again if the navmesh agent is actually pending. So if not, navmesh agent dot pass pending, and navmesh agent remaining distance. So we're gonna go closer to it. Navmesh agent dot remaining distance is going to be bigger than the attack distance. Then we want to do something, and what we're going to do is, of course, we want to go to it, or actually set everything to be, let's go. That means we're gonna set the navmesh agent, navmesh agent dot is stopped is going to be equal to false once again, so it's not stopped, it's going to be true in this case, and we're gonna set walking once again to be true. Okay, so and when the attack distance is closer than that, or when we are close enough to that, so else if, now we're gonna do the same stuff once again, but we just reverse the attack distance. So I'm gonna copy this line all over into the else if statement here at this point. So again, if not pass pending and the navmesh agent distance is going to be smaller or equal the attack distance, so we are close to it, to our target, wherever it is, we're gonna set everything to be false. That means, once again, we say the navmesh agent dot is stopped is going to be equal to true, so we're gonna stop that navmesh agent. We might want to also look to the target, so we say transform dot look at, and open close parentheses, we're gonna set in just whatever we are looking at, and in this case it's going to be the target, no matter where we are. Then we want to set walking is going to be equal to false, since we're not walking anymore, and also the walking animation will stop. We can actually also print some info data. We're gonna do that in a moment. And we want to make sure that object clicked is going to be false. So only do that once. And in the very last, we want to reset the path of the NavMesh agent. So we say reset path. Okay, and the last one actually in this case is we only want to read the info. So actually we're gonna go close in here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna read all of the data actually in that else if statement. So we can do that maybe somewhere here. I'm gonna print an info later on here. We need to create a little script which is holding the data for us, so we can read it. Okay, but before we can read it, of course, we need to make sure that we gonna set the guy to go to the point where he has to go, and that's what we are going to do in this case in here. So if an enemy has been clicked, we're gonna do the move in a click, else we're gonna reset everything. But we also want to make sure that if we have clicked an object, for example, and it has been an info one, we're gonna call the little read infos function in here and passing over the transform. So, and how can we do that? Actually, we're gonna create an else if statement just in between. So else if open close parentheses, and what we can do is if an object clicked, and operator in this case, the clicked object dot, I believe it's game object dot tag is going to be equal to info, then and only then, so if the tag is correct and we have clicked an object actually in this case, this is only happening once, we're gonna go and read infos, and what we pass over is the clicked object. So now we can, when we have clicked an object and the tag of the clicked object has been info, which we just have in here already, which is temporarily stored actually in that clicked object transform in here. While we are hitting this, we're gonna send this one here as well. We're gonna pass over the data to the read infos, and he's reading the info. So at first he goes to the target, and if it's close enough, it's going to do all of that stuff for us. So currently it's just walking to it and looking to it, but nothing fancy or nothing else. Gonna save the script pretty quick and go back to Unity to see if we have any compiler errors, just to make sure. Nothing at that point, just some warnings that some variables haven't been used, like the double click one, but we don't care at the moment. This is my little signpost in here. It's just an empty game object on the ground, as you can see, and has a box collider around wherever that signpost currently is. And of course you can see I have tagged this one as info, since it's just containing 2 cubes. I don't care about the cubes. Actually they don't even need box colliders on them, so basically you could get rid of them as well, or you create your own a 3D model for this one. I just didn't have the time yet. Maybe I'm gonna do later on. So this is my signpost, which has a box collider and the info tag. So what we want to have is a little script on the signpost itself, so we can read whatever the signpost is talking or actually saying to us. And we want to print that inside of here. Later on we might want to blend this one somewhere in the middle or whatever. So let's create that pretty quick. I just go and create a new C# script, and I just call this one infos. Infos is not too big in this case, it's just having a string we're gonna read later on. So we can get rid of void start and update, we don't need those. Just keeping a mono behavior so we are able to access it directly inside the inspector. And what we're gonna have in here is a public string, and we can call this one just info. or info text or whatever. Let's do it with a small I, otherwise we might get any problems in here. Okay, so we have just that string. Actually, we can just close info CS, and we go to our signpost and assign the info script directly to the signpost. So you can see we're gonna have an info field in here, and we can type in anything we like. So for example, we can make it like this way. We're gonna paint in just an arrow or something. Golem cave, this way. We could also go and type in a pipe and maybe make another way marker. In this case, maybe this is a dead island way. So you can go left and right, I don't know. You can decide how you like to create this. I'm gonna make another triangle bracket in here, so it's maybe looking better later on. So again, we don't create this one, or actually we don't create the text fields for this one directly over the signpost or inside the field. We might want to go and pass the data to this one later on. Also, you can see I've extended the field a bit. I just copied my first ground to that one over here. Make sure that this one is static, and just rebake everything in the navigation mesh so you can see, okay, we're gonna have our chest in here, our signpost, and still our enemy, and I just rebaked that stuff in here as well. Okay, so what we want to do is we want now check when this one is tagged, the signpost, and we are walking to it, we want to read the data from the info script, which is directly sitting on it right now. And that's pretty easy. We just get the component from the clicked object and just pass the data inside the print message. What we can do at this point is we're gonna print a message. Again, later on you can pass this one over to a, I don't know, whatever system you prefer, a shield or something, an info box somewhere, or maybe directly over the object itself or whatever. Well, we will go over this one later on, since it's not so important, but we want to make sure that we are able to interact with all that stuff. Okay, so what we want to print in here is, well, not in quotes, we want to get target dot, and the target has a component on it, and open close the triangle brackets, and the component is going to be infos, open close parentheses after the triangle brackets, and in here we're gonna read the info. So, and since this one is a string already, we can just pass this one over directly in the in the console, and we would get the info directly in that when we are close enough to it and when we are clicking on it, of course. So let's test this one out. We're here. We can click on the on that signpost now. We go close to it, and what we're gonna get is, you maybe not see this one. I'm gonna open the console. As you can see, here is Golem Cave to the left, Dead Island to the right. I'm gonna do that not in maximize on play, so you can see it's also only once called when we are close enough. Boop, like now. Okay, so what we can do is we can avoid going too close to it. We don't need to have this one directly in the navigation mesh, except you want to go not through it when we are clicking like that. But we can always go in and click that wherever we are, and we can also look to the target when we are close enough as well. Okay, and that's just giving us all that print messages, and that's pretty good. So what we actually can do is the same with the chest. We can usually just go in and copy paste all of that stuff, but we're gonna do a bit different thing in here. In this case, we're gonna just set a trigger for an animation in this case. Okay, I'm gonna close this one, make this one small, and I just call this one maybe open chest. I just want to make sure that you know what I mean. Instead of printing the message or the info in here, we can play an animation. And that's basically nothing else than we're gonna pass over, or actually take the target's animator component in its children, if there is a children, of course. And after that, we can play any animation trigger or something, whatever, when we have the connection to the animator. So what we say is target.gameObject. And now we can actually get the component in children. For me, it is in children. For you, it might not be in children. It's a component of type animator. Open close parentheses after the triangle brackets, and we're gonna set, or in my case, I'm gonna set a or I want to set a trigger. Let's see, target.gameObject get components in children, animator, and I want to set a trigger. Why can't I set a trigger? Maybe there's a typo somewhere, I don't know. I want to set a trigger with open close parentheses, and my trigger in this case is called play. Oh, not components, just one component. That's why it was ugly with that. It requested an array of animators, but we only have one animator. Okay, so all we want to do is, I'm gonna show you what the trigger is about in just a second. But what I want to make sure is that when I hit that chest, of course, I want to set object has been clicked as well. Also, clicked object is going to be hit transform. And what I want to do is else if, so another else if statement in this case, and the trigger has been chest, or actually the tag has been chest. I want to open chest with the currently clicked object. Okay, so let me show you pretty quick what the chest is about. The chest is nothing else than a box. Yeah, just a cube in this case. I just stretched this one. You might remember this one from earlier. Also, you can see I just created another one. And what I have is an opener in here. When I rotate this, you can see you can rotate that to be an open one. If you have your own chest, of course, feel free to use it. I believe it's animated already. If not, you can do that easily inside Unity as well. So this is just an empty game object. Can show you with an icon, so you can see it's sitting here. Why it's sitting there? Because the local axis of the chest top is somewhere in the middle, but I wanted to have a placeholder actually, which makes me possible to animate this one at this point and not in the center. So I just took the chest top and make this one children of the opener, and I just animate the opener. That means the animator component is sitting directly on the opener, not on the chest. That's why I needed to request the animator component in the children, as you can see over here once again. So what I want to do is I want to set a trigger, and the trigger needs to be play. So when I have selected my opener and I go to the animator, you can see I created a close idle, which is just one frame animation, a chest open, which is the open animation, and the open chest idle, which has just the last frame of this. So I don't open the chest 3 times. So when when play is with a condition in here is going to be true in this case, so the trigger has been set, it's going to play the chest animation, and when exit time is coming over, it's going to open the chest and go into the idle animation in this case. I don't go over the animation stuff right now since it would just be too much. Okay, so and I can show you this one pretty quick. Gonna press play. I can actually go in here, so you can see the chest is completely idling the whole time, and when I activate that trigger play, it would play the chest open animation like this, and then it's going to be always open. It will not be closed anymore. You can still go to it, but you're not able to do anything because it's already opened. Okay, so now let's test this one out with our mouse input. So we go just close, and the chest is going to open when we are hitting this one. And that's pretty much everything about all the inputs in this case. But we want to make sure that we are able to attack the enemy only when we have double clicked. So what we say is if enemy clicked and double click, only then we want to go and attack and move that, and otherwise we don't want. So otherwise we don't just want to go and select it maybe, or yeah, to select this one. So to select it, it would be just an other else if statement in this case. So only if the enemy has been clicked in this case. Gonna copy that pretty quick. So when we double click and the enemy has been clicked as well, then we want to go and move attack. Else, if we just click it, we want to have some selection stuff. Select enemy. So about the selection, we're gonna go in further later on, since we don't have anything for the enemies where we can set them to be selected or not. Since there are no scripts at that point, and actually we have a long tutorial in here at that point anyways. So let's test this one out pretty quick. So when I just click on it once, nothing happens. If I double click, I go further into the attack animation, and that's what we wanted, or actually what the Patreon wants. And I believe we're gonna do the next stuff in another video. About running around and doing more interactions. But for the moment, I believe we came pretty far, and I'm happy with the result, and I hope you as well. And if you want to make sure that this series is going to be continued, make sure to become my patron as well, so you have the possibility to request videos to that series as well. Just check it out at patreon.com/xOctoManx, or go down into the description for all the other infos. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumb this video up if you like it, and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.